Hey guys, welcome back to the neighborhood. I promised this review a while ago for a viewer of the channel, and well, this friendly neighborhood reviewer always pays his debts. So, without further ado, let's get into the Loxjie P20. So the Loxjie P20 is a fully balanced headphone amplifier. It also has two tubes, presumably acting as buffers for its balanced amplifier circuit. These tubes are of the 6N 3P variety to be specific, which research suggests is a Chinese military tube copied from a Russian design. But let's get one thing straight right away. While some might expect a tubey sound to come from this unit, especially given that it has two of them, this is not really what you get from the P20. Instead, the tubes seem to quell the highs a bit and add a very slight warmth or smoothness to the sound signature, particularly at the top end of the treble and in the low end presentation. Other than noting that it is a JRC 55320 amplifier, I can't really say more about the circuitry of this amplifier in terms of its class or design, because there's simply not a lot of information out there at this point, it seems. Part of the reason that I've been delaying putting out a review of this unit is because I had hoped that someone who knows more about amp design might have been able to identify exactly how this thing works by now. But alas, I have not been able to find any information regarding this, so if you know, please follow up with me, and I will update this review accordingly. So let's get right into the performance. For less than $100, this is an epic little balanced amplifier. It's made of what appears to be a sturdy machined metal chassis with a machined aluminum knob and rubberized feet. The color, which I chose, was metallic red, but I understand that these units also come in a black or silver variety. The knob is a digitally stepped volume control with a blue digital readout as it reads P20 when you first turn it on. After a few seconds, it displays the volume, beginning with -60 at the top of the volume control and moving down to 00 as you crank it up. The digital display also shows the input and output selection when you press the volume knob in on the unit, cycling between volume level, output selection, and input selection on the digital readout. Input and output selection between balanced inputs and outputs and unbalanced inputs and outputs is facilitated by turning the knob in each digital mode. The stock tubes display an amber color at the base of the unit, and the metal chassis does get hot when the unit has been running for a short period of time. Because of this, I suspect that the P20 may have a Class A circuit, but again, I have not confirmed this. Testing revealed that the balanced output operation was very clean, both for headphones and for IEMs. The unbalanced output produced a buzz on both low impedance cans and sensitive IEMs. Interestingly, balanced versus unbalanced input seemed to have little effect on this, as both inputs were clean when running balanced output from the unit. However, I would only recommend this amplifier if you're going to run it in balanced output operation. Otherwise, I would skip the P20. Its unbalanced performance was simply not up to snuff, and it did not meet my standard. I even noticed the limitations of the unbalanced output performance on cans where sensitivity was not an issue. It simply just did not sound anywhere near as good from its unbalanced output as it did from its balanced one. On the other hand, positively, if you wanted to run a manualized EQ with this unit, you could run one in between your DAC and the single-ended input without issue. One issue with the single-ended input, which I did observe, was that if the P20 was chained from the single-ended output of the THX AAA 789, the Loxjie P20 would cause dynamic clipping on the 789 if both units were not powered on. My solution to this was simply to turn both units on or to unhook the P20 from the chain entirely, which of course solved this issue. Alternatively, you could use a switch between your DAC and both amps to cut the signal and prevent feedback. But this outcome was somewhat disappointing nevertheless. So unless this is your only amplifier, I'm going to dissuade you from using the single-ended input in most situations as well, as the P20 simply did not play well with others. A survey of accounts on the internet suggests that the stock tubes introduce the most noise or distortion. Reports also suggest that an upgraded power supply might improve overall sonic clarity as well. Having said that, I did not experiment with tube rolling for this review, and I did not order any additional power supplies for my unit. Instead, I choose to simply use the balanced output, which provides outstanding clarity from its stock configuration from my point of view, especially for the price of $85 that I paid. With that said, an internet user also suggested that upgrading the P20 to the following power supply could help. However, I was a bit scared to order one given that the unit already gets quite hot with the included power supply. Nevertheless, I will include a link to the suggested power supply in the description, but don't blame me if you burn down your house, okay? So why do I keep this little amp? Well, because of synergy, of course, that's why. More specifically, this thing pairs particularly well with a few pieces of gear which I own, love, and will cover shortly. I have also discovered through this review that the P20 can provide smooth, neutral tones via its balanced output to IEMs as well. As such, I will be holding on to the unit for use in future IEM critiques. So let's get down to the nuts and bolts. This is one of my favorite amplifiers with the HD6XX. The sounds that these two produce together is pure magic for the price. The HD6XX on the P20 sounds very close to that of the sounds of the THX AAA 789, but I actually find that the 6XX ultimately sounds better on the Loxjie. Explicitly, the HD6XX sounds just as neutral as it does on the THX AAA 789, but it also has a kiss of general warmth and a tad more low-end presence on the P20, which is very satisfying. I also really like the presentation that I get from the Jade Audio EA3 on the Loxjie P20. Using the Gold Note DS10 as the balanced DAC and feeding the Loxjie P20 as the balanced amplifier. The EA3 really tightens up when utilizing a TriPoWin Zoni 2-pin 2.5mm balance cable and the drop 2.5mm to 4-pin XLR adapter to connect the FIO offering to the P20. Spacing and separation are increased, and the soundstage becomes open and sonics within it become more resolving. There's also enhanced coherence, and sounds gain a softness to their character, becoming more smoothed over without sacrificing any details or clarity. In general, I'd say that the P20 offers a neutral sound signature with a slight hint of warmth across its frequency response. For $85 to $100, this thing resolves with amps beyond its price range. Do you have a headphone with just a bit too much treble glare or grain? Then the P20 may fix that, and still offer a neutral, pleasing performance. The One More triple driver over-ears are a great example of a headphone that benefits from this amp in this manner. On the One Mores, the overall presentation has a slight expansive quality to its staging and an open and airy sound signature to it without going overboard in this direction. A drawback to the P20 is that it isn't supremely powerful. While it's capable of driving the 300 ohm HD6XX that I already spoke about, this is most likely its upper limit with regard to power handling. At 300 ohms it produces 325 milliwatts, and at 64 ohms it produces 665 milliwatts in balanced operation. There is also not a devastating amount of current here, which limits its ability to be a great pairing with planar magnetic cans. With my Ether CX, it lacked dimension, sounded rather weak, and was extremely boring. There was a hollowed out character put forth with this amplifier that I am not used to from this set. My wife described the tones of this combination as weak AF, whatever that means. Nevertheless, its power limitations might actually be a strength when it comes to this amplifier playing well with sensitive IEMs, as you don't really have to worry about overdriving balanced armatures or other delicate designs with the P20, and its balanced output offers spectacular clarity and a lowered noise floor. So if you're looking for a cheaper, neutral, smooth-sounding, low-powered amplifier with some mixed tube flavor to drive dynamic cans and IEMs alike, then look no further than the Loxjie P20. It's a very pleasing amplifier that plays well with a variety of cans and earphones, but I wouldn't recommend it for use with planars or an unbalanced operation. An iFi Zen DAC or a Grace Design S DAC feeding this amplifier a balanced signal would make for a serious hi-fi setup vis-a-vis a low-cost solution, with also a small desktop footprint. And just a reminder guys, I'll be giving away another set of COS KSC75s at the 1000 subscriber mark. So make sure to hit subscribe here and follow the neighborhood at all its other access locations, such as on Instagram, Twitter, the blog, or join the Discord. There's also a Patreon. The Patreon is only $1.50 a month, and it gets you access to early written blog reviews from me after 1.1k subscribers. And with that, I'm out for now.